wide and very detailed topic. I was just talking to Abdurrahman a few minutes ago. I told him that it's close to impossible to cover this topic in 45 minutes. Matter of fact, we offered this subject exactly called Islamic financial transactions 2 as one of the classes required for the master's degree in Islamic finance at Guidance College. However, we'll do our best, inshallah, to discuss as much as we can tonight. If you still have comments and questions, anything in mind, maybe we can arrange for another event soon, inshallah. As you see in the flyer here, topic discussion includes introduction to Islamic finance, use of credit and debit cards, student loans and other debts, buying a house via mortgage. Let me just briefly introduce to you the concept of Islamic finance. By the way, those slides in particular have been prepared by my friend Khalid Sayyid, who is the CEO of Guidance Residential. That's an Islamic mortgage company, different from Guidance College. He put it in a very nice way, and I took his permission to use those slides. If you want to make a very quick comparison between conventional finance versus Islamic finance, okay? Why we call it Islamic finance? What is the difference between Islamic versus conventional one? He has chosen to put it this way: investing versus lending. Because when you go to a conventional bank, Bank of America or Chase, for example, and you apply for $10,000 loan, whether it is a student loan or personal loan or business loan or investment loan, whatever the category might be, the bank honestly does not care about the outcome result of that money. Okay, whether you make a profit, whether you incur loss, whether you break even, in a positive way, the bank does not care. I mean, you have taken $10,000. You are required by law, by the agreement between you and the bank, to pay it back $11,000 or $12,000. It does not go this way when it comes to Islamic finance, and it's good actually to make it lending versus investing, because when you deal with an Islamic bank or Islamic mortgage company or Islamic investment, there is no loan to start with. Okay, loan is not a mode of finance in the Islamic finance system. This is Islamic finance 101. Loan is not a mode of finance. You either advance a loan, an interest-free loan. We call it Ardul Hasan, interest-free loan. You give it for charity purposes, for cooperative purposes. You give it to someone who is in need for that money, not for commercial purposes. Someone wants to do like a surgery, or to pay for the basics of his life, or to pay the rent for his apartment or house. Someone who is desperate for cash money for a short period of time. That is the person that you can definitely give him a loan. But when it comes to business and making money, it's not a wise decision to give your money to somebody else as a loan, in which he makes money out of your money, and then after 1 or 2 years, he brings you the principal back with nothing on top of it. You cannot claim any money on top of it because you have given him interest-free loan, right? And this is not fair. Okay, if I know for a fact that someone wants my money to upgrade his business or to establish a business, I will never give him a loan. We can establish a partnership. We can be partners. We can establish an enterprise together. I provide the money, he provides the labor and the expertise, and we put our resources together, human resources from his side, management, okay, and money from my side. We establish a business. If there is a profit, everybody will be enjoying the profit. If there is a loss, everybody will be incurring a certain kind of loss. So this is actually the philosophy of Islamic finance, in which as you see here, in which the risk actually is shared between the two parties or the partners. So no one is taking full risk and the other one is taking zero risk, which is absolutely the case when it comes to conventional finance. As I said, the bank gives you $10,000 with no liability. You are fully responsible for paying off that $10,000. Well, what if you put that money in a business and you lost? Okay, you did not make a profit for some reason, for whatever pandemic might be, like what you are experiencing nowadays, COVID-19. You have lost your principal whatsoever. In front of the bank, okay, you are not, I mean, the bank is not responsible. You have to pay $12,000 within 1 or 2 years, whatever the terms or the APR might be. So in the Islamic finance system, there is a risk sharing concept versus in the conventional finance system, risk transfer. Someone actually is putting all the risk, all the liability on the other party and just, sitting and waiting for that money to be paid back plus, plus interest on top of it. This is absolutely unfair. Of course, when it comes to investing or creating a partnership with the Islamic mortgage or with the Islamic finance or investment company, it's a win-win framework versus win-loss framework. Okay, if there is a profit, as I said, everybody will be taking his or her share from the profit. If there is a loss, everybody will be incurring loss. Make no mistake about it that Islamic finance does not get involved in any product or any project that is harmful to the society, harmful to the akhlaq, to the manners of the society, harmful to the health, threatens the safety and the security of the society. This is something to be excluded from day one. Anything that has been explicitly mentioned as a haram product, Islamic finance by default is away from all these activities. Of course, there is a justice and equity and an economy when it comes to Islamic finance versus in the conventional finance system, rich gets richer and poor gets poorer. Why? Because again, the rich, the financier, the one who has millions of dollars does not take any risk. The only one who is taking the risk actually is the poor customer who just goes there and just abide by the rules and the conditions and the guidelines of the bank. The bank looks down at him. This is what we have. You take it or you leave it, right? In the Islamic finance system, it doesn't go this way. We have different tools or different, we call them modes of finance. Okay, it depends on the nature of the project that you want to finance. If you want to construct or build a property or a construction, that's a different mode of finance. If you have a business already established and you want to upgrade it, that's a different mode of finance, right? If you want to buy already existing house, different mode of finance, okay? If you want to establish a business from scratch, different mode of finance. But in every single mode of finance, there is a certain amount of risk, recognizable, measurable amount of risk that is taken by the Islamic investment company. And again, whenever there is a profit, everybody will be happy. Everybody will be, joining his or her share of the profit. If there is a loss, everybody will be losing, right? Everybody will be losing. So that's why I always prefer to call the Islamic finance. I prefer actually to call it divine finance. Okay? Not to be biased because I'm a Muslim. No, it is a divine finance. Okay, we Muslims wholeheartedly believe that whatever is explicitly prohibited in the Islamic law is still prohibited in Christianity, is still prohibited in Judaism. As a matter of fact, the prohibition of riba has been clearly mentioned, like for the Jewish community, has been mentioned clearly in the Quran. وَأَخْذِهِمُ الرِّبَا وَقَدْ نُهُوا عَنْهُ. And the fact that they used to deal with interest while they were prohibited from doing so. Of course, like if fornication and adultery, if alcoholism, are prohibited in Islam, they are prohibited in Christianity, they are prohibited in Judaism. And likewise, since riba is prohibited in Islam, of course, I'm 100% positive that it was prohibited in Christianity in the same way it was prohibited in Judaism. As I said, the Quran itself actually is the one who is telling us about the prohibition of interest or usury in Judaism. وَأَخْذِهِمُ الرِّبَا. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was talking about the Jewish community for a certain period of time or a specific period of time, he said, وَأَخْذِهِمُ الرِّبَا وَقَدْ نُهُوا عَنْهُ. And the fact that they used to charge interest while they were prohibited from doing so. Now, this is just a very brief introduction to the concept of Islamic finance. So from now on, when we say Islamic finance, always remember divine finance. Always remember that that's something enrooted in the Islamic law. We are not coming up with a system that we call it Islamic finance. No, we have certain guidelines, principles, restrictions have been set clearly either in the Quran or in the authentic Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ that makes the nature and the definition of Islamic finance like well known for all of us Muslims. Moving on, let's talk about something that is very relevant here, which is the definition of interest. Okay, everybody knows that riba is prohibited. In fact, even non-Muslims, like our fellow Americans around, they know that practicing religious Muslims do not get involved in interest, right? But what is vague and not that clear for us is the definition of interest. Okay, interest actually is not an actual or accurate, if you wish, accurate translation of riba. Maybe the closest or the most accurate translation is usury. Usury actually is the riba that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited. Anyway, the most severe category of riba in which its prohibition is something agreed upon between the four different madhab that we Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah follow, whether the Hanafi one or the Maliki or the Shafi'i or the Hanbali one is the following. It is called riba al-nasiya. Okay? Do not worry about those like big terms in Arabic. Just try to capture the concept of riba al-nasiya. It is, as you see here, it is the premium that must be paid by the borrower to the lender. So you can understand that there is a lending activity here. Someone is advancing money and someone is taking money as a loan. It's not a partnership, it's not a gift, it's not a grant, it's not a scholarship, it's not a financial aid, none of the above. It is a loan. I give you $10,000, you pay it back, 10,000 plus. That plus, whether 1,000 or $1, doesn't make any difference when it comes to haram and halal. That plus, on top of the 10,000, is the interest that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited. So the premium that must be paid by the borrower to the lender, along with the principal amount plus premium, either, number one, as a condition for the loan. Condition for the loan means, again, you go to Bank of America, you know from day one that whatever interest you have to pay is unavoidable. Okay, it's not interest-free or zero APR for 6 months or 1 year, and then after that, if you default in paying in full, then you will be paying the consequences. No, it is an interest-bearing loan from day one. There is a certain APR. It could be 0.5%, it could be 5%, it could be 100%. Okay, the amount or the percentage of APR, haram and halal wise, permissibility and impermissibility wise, does not make any difference. Okay, whether you are charged 1%, something really like trivial, nominal, or you are charged like a hefty amount of money as an interest, haram and halal wise, it doesn't make any difference. It's either interest-free loan or otherwise interest-bearing loan. There is nothing in between. So the first scenario is as a condition of the loan. You go to Bank of America, you apply for a personal loan, you pay 3% interest, and that interest actually is unavoidable. Okay, you have to pay that amount, 10,000 in our example, within 1 year, and that 10,000 has to be paid $10,300. Why? Because you have to pay 3% interest. So this is scenario number one, either as a condition for the loan or otherwise for an extension in its maturity. Okay, what does this mean? It means that nowadays, like in a very common contemporary language, when you take a zero APR loan, zero APR means that there is a introductory period, there is a grace period of 6 months, 1 year, 18 months, 2 years, whatever introductory period might be, as long as you commit to paying the minimum payment, usually $35, $40, $50, then there is no interest whatsoever. All the way toward the end of the introductory period, you have to pay the full loan, like the loan in full. You borrow $10,000 for 2 years, zero APR. For 2 years, zero APR. You can use that money as much as as many times as you want. Okay. Although, let's say that prior to the end of the second year, you have borrowed the $10,000. Within a few days, if you default in paying off the $10,000, then that loan will start accumulating interest. That's the meaning of zero APR. APR, for those who do not know, stands for annual percentage rate. Annual percentage rate. So why I'm adding this component here to the definition, because even back in Jahiliyyah, like in the Islamic, like before Islamic, like before the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, even in the beginning of his prophethood, before the prohibition of interest, you read a lot of narrations indicating clearly that this kind of riba was widely prevailing. You read, for example, in Muwatta Imam Malik, which is one of the authentic resources for Ahl Sunnah. كان الرجل يقرض الرجل فإذا جاء الأجل قال أمهلني وأزيدك. People used to lend one another, okay, on an interest-free loan basis, zero APR, zero, right? Interest-free loan, قرض حسن. فإذا جاء الأجل, upon the maturity of that loan, إذا جاء الأجل قال أمهلني وأزيدك. Okay, the borrower would approach the lender by saying, I do not have enough money. Would it be possible, please, to give me more time? Okay, like to push the maturity date of the loan, and I will pay you more. Or otherwise, فإذا جاء الأجل قال إما أن تقضي وإما أن تربي. Upon the maturity or the due date of the loan, sometimes the lender approaches the borrower by saying, okay, the loan is due. You have two options. Either you pay me in full, or otherwise, if you want to take more time, I don't mind at all, but you have to pay me extra. فأنزل الله سبحانه وتعالى يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وذروا ما بقي من الربا إن كنتم مؤمنين فإن لم تفعلوا فأذنوا بحرب من الله ورسوله وإن تبتم فلكم رؤوس أموالكم لا تظلمون ولا تظلمون. Upon that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the ayah that's completely, permanently prohibited riba. Riba referred in this particular ayah is riba nasiya, which is again the premium that must be paid by the borrower to the lender along with the principal amount, either, number one, either as a condition for the loan, or number two, for an extension in its maturity. That is the most severe level of or category of interest, which is something agreed upon. Now the agreed upon its prohibition. Now the challenge that we are facing here in the US is how to identify those interest-bearing transactions to be avoided and those interest-free transactions to be conducted safely. Okay, why I'm calling it a challenge? Because the terminology used in the industry, in the contract, in the legal contract that you sign with the other party, they use certain terms, okay, certain statements or certain terms that are different in their definition than the terms or the exact terms in the Islamic law or in the Islamic finance system. Okay, I'll give you just a few examples. You use your debit card, right? And let's say that you have only $200 in your bank account, in your checking account, and you made a transaction in $300. Usually it goes through. Okay, how come that it goes through? You have only $200 and you purchase something for $300. What does it mean it went through? Oh, it means that the bank has paid on your behalf $100. It's not written. I mean, there is no document showing that, oh, the bank actually is paying on your behalf and you have to pay. But this is actually the nature or the essence of the agreement. Okay, so far so good. If you have to pay those $100 back to the bank with no consequences, then this is, again, from an Islamic perspective, this is an interest-free loan. The bank lended you $100, you pay it back $100, you're good to go, right? Unfortunately, it's not the case. The bank charges you something called overdraft charge. Overdraft charge, $35 in most cases. Well, what is the interpretation of that $35? Well, believe it or not, what you are paying actually is interest. What you are paying is interest. How come it is interest? It's not introduced to me as interest. Oh, that is the trick here. Okay. Again, the terms or the legal terms that are used in the industry, in the finance industry, in the U.S. and in the investment industry in the U.S. are completely different from the definition of those terms in the Islamic finance system. What you have to pay here is overdraft charge. Well, overdraft charge from an Islamic perspective means nothing more than to be interest. Because again, you have borrowed, whether you like it or not, you have borrowed $100, you have borrowed $100 from the bank, and the bank actually is definitely asking you to pay the $100 back, okay, plus extra amount, okay, called or justified as overdraft charge. Overdraft charge means interest, okay, because you borrowed 100 and you have to pay it back $135. Even if you have to pay it $100.35, it's still interest, it's still haram. This is just like a random example to make a case here that this is the challenge that we face, right? How to make sure that those terms used in the industry, okay, are either identical to the terms used in the Islamic finance system or different, right? I'll give you another example before I open the floor for question and answer. What does it mean to mortgage a house in the US? What does it mean to mortgage a house? You say so-and-so individual mortgaged the house, okay, with Countrywide, with Chase, okay? You need to take one step back and try to unlock the secret of the mortgage contract in the US or mortgage transaction in the US. If you try to break it down to different contracts from an Islamic perspective, you will find the following. Okay, mortgaging a house includes, number one, sale agreement, because you as a customer, as a client, you buy a house from the landlord. The house is already there. It has an owner. You buy that house. So we have a sale agreement here, or sale contract. And of course, you do not have enough money to pay off, for the house. That's why you approach a mortgage company. And the mortgage company actually does not give you under your name a check of $200,000. No, they go ahead and pay the price of the house on your behalf to the landlord. So the check actually is issued for John Smith on behalf of Ma'an Alqudah. So Ma'an Alqudah, which is me, is the borrower from the mortgage company. John Smith actually is the beneficiary or the payee. So they pay to John Smith on your behalf. What does it mean? It means that you are borrowing money from Country One, from Chase. Okay. Well, if those $200,000 in our example are to be paid back $200,000, then there is no concern here. Unfortunately, it's not the case, right? You have to pay those $200,000, maybe $350,000 within the next 20, 25, 30 years. So there is a transaction here called interest-bearing loan. You are the borrower, and the mortgage company is the lender. Okay, we are not done yet. Transaction number 3, okay, is the lien agreement or the mortgage agreement, which is the fact that the mortgage company puts a lien, okay, on your house. You are the owner of the house, but they put a lien on it to secure their money, right? Until and the interest both are paid in full. Okay? Once you pay everything, they release the title, you get your clear title, here you go, here is your house, right? So if we do not have that fiqh background in Islamic finance and Islamic financial transactions, we might get confused. We might think that the mortgage company actually is the owner of the house, and they buy the house before they sell it to you, which is absolutely not the case. The mortgage company is the lien holder while you are the owner, right? And you owe the mortgage company a certain amount of money. They put their name on the deed of trust, on the title, as the lien holder, because they want to secure their money, right? Once you pay the principal and the interest, then the title actually is released and you're good to go, because the principal is paid and the interest is paid. What is the point here? Point here is that, again, if you do not have that fiqh background, you might say, well, it's just a mortgage agreement. But from an Islamic finance perspective, it is a combination of 3 different transactions in one: sale agreement, loan agreement, mortgage or lien agreement. You see, we do not have any issue when it comes to sale agreement. We do not have an issue when it comes to mortgage agreement according to the Islamic definition of mortgage. As a matter of fact, mortgage itself, according to the Islamic definition, has been mentioned in the Quran, right? When kuntum in Surah Al-Baqarah, in the last paragraph of the surah, okay, all the way toward the end, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was talking about the consequences of dealing with interest and the prohibition of interest, he said, وَإِن كُنْتُمْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ, if you are traveling, وَلَمْ تَجِدُوا كَاتِبًا, without having like a script or someone to write or document the agreement, وَلَمْ تَجِدُوا كَاتِبًا فَرِهَانٌ مَقْبُوضَةٌ. الرهان is the mortgage, which means that the lender does have the right to mortgage or to put a lien on the property of the borrower to secure his money. There's nothing wrong with that. So again, we do not have any issue with the sale agreement. We do not have issue with the mortgage agreement. We have an issue with the loan agreement because it is an interest-bearing loan. Can we say, okay, we have 3 different agreements here, or contracts. 2 of them are halal and 1 of them is haram. Let's go with the majority. 2 against 1, the whole transaction is halal. Well, unfortunately, it goes the other way around. If 1 component out of 3 is prohibited, this is more than enough to prohibit the whole transaction. Maybe, which is not the case. Even if the term interest is not mentioned here, we do not care, because the nature of the agreement itself shows clearly that you are borrowing money with interest. To conclude, mortgaging a house in a traditional way is not an option for practicing Muslims, because it is prohibited. What is the solution? What are the alternatives? That's a different discussion. I wish in this brief, very, very brief introduction, I was successful enough in just shedding some light on the concept of Islamic finance, definition of riba, emphasizing the fact that we need to understand the riba from a fiqh perspective, and we need to understand the finance industry in the US. So 2 different kinds of knowledge that we have to combine together. We have to marry together to be able to come up with a fatwa that this particular transaction is halal, this particular transaction is haram. Before I open the floor for you for question and answer, let me just show you this link here. There you go. This is a program initiated by Guidance College, which is the college that I'm representing today. You see, it's called okay, 1 second. Okay, want to learn everything about interest? We have like video clips, okay, 2 to 3 minutes each one of them. I go through very tiny details, and I break down the concept of riba and different transactions, debit card and credit card and mortgage, and okay, I'll show you just one random example. And then 0% APR third-party finance. First of all, what does APR stand for? Stands for annual percentage rate. So whenever you receive an offer, 0 APR third-party finance, it means that there is an independent entity, a bank or finance company or credit card company, whatever the entity might be, is willing to give you an interest-free loan for a certain period of time to buy that particular commodity. What we need to answer here is the question whether or not this. If someone actually is interested in this topic, maybe you can register for this course. It's a Facebook group. You see, every week, our marketing team add maybe a few videos, and then whenever we have like a good number of people, I will be joining them inshallah live on weekly basis. So this is very briefly an introduction to Islamic finance, and I will give the floor to Abdul Rahman to arrange for the question and answer part of this presentation. Abdul Rahman.
JazakAllah Khairan, Dr. Ma'in. So inshallah, we're going to start off with a couple from the pre-submitted questions, and then we'll move on to some of the questions that have been submitted in the chat. So to start with, I have a question on that says, I have a savings account and it generates profit of 1 cent per month. I'm not sure what I should do. Is it haram to keep this profit? And if yes, is it halal to donate it to the masjid or to some other cause?
That's a very good example of the difference or the contradiction between the definition of interest from industrial perspective versus from an Islamic perspective. Let me ask you this: when you open a saving account, what does it mean? Always you need to pause a little bit, okay? Maybe even you take one step back and think about this transaction from an Islamic perspective. Okay, my question to you, for the respected brother or sister, the inquirer, if I give you $5,000 cash money, okay, as a loan, and I ask you to commit to pay me 2% APR annually, or 3% more or less, isn't it an interest-bearing loan or not? The answer is yes, because based on the agreement between you and I, my principal, 5,000 our example, is guaranteed, and my return on investment is guaranteed. Am I correct? Principal plus interest on top of it, both are guaranteed. Using the same concept, when I approach Bank of America again, okay, and I open a saving account, based on the agreement between me and Bank of America guarantees my $5,000. They have an insurance with the FDIC, right? So up to like for personal accounts up to $250,000, they guarantee it, right? By the FDIC, Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, and they guarantee me the 2%. Well, what is the message here? What I want to say? What I want to say is that opening a saving account is a pure, straightforward, explicit interest-bearing transaction in which you are the lender and Bank of America is the borrower. You might say, well, how come that Bank of America borrows money from me? I have only 5,000 and they have $5 trillion, right? My answer is it doesn't go this direction. Okay, we do not in a positive way. We do not care about who has more and who has less. What we care about actually is the essence of the transaction itself. There is actually a golden fiqh maxim here, okay, that every single Muslim has to know it by heart. Okay, that fiqh maxim goes: العبرة في العقود للمقاصد والمعاني لا للألفاظ والمباني. What matters in transactions is the essence and reality, not the wording or formality. What matters in transactions in Islam is the essence and reality, not the wording or the formality. Which means, in a very simple language, even if we try to circumvent the rules of riba or just manipulate the terms or just to play with the terms in the agreement to make it like looks nice and good and interest-free, it doesn't make it interest-free one, because what we care about is the essence, is the reality of the agreement itself. The reality of this agreement is that you, as a customer, as a saving account holder, you are lending your money to Bank of America. Why? Because your principal is guaranteed and your return, or your APR, is guaranteed as well. You see? And that's why opening a saving account is not an option to start with. Opening a saving account is not an option to start with. Even if you want to, or even if you feel more comfortable calling that return as a profit, well, call it profit, okay? Call it ribh, call it revenue, call it whatever you want. At the end of the day, it is an interest. It is an interest. And since, you know, interest is unavoidable here, opening a saving account is not an option to start with. So my recommendation to my respected brother or sister, the inquirer here, is that you need to close your saving account immediately, okay? And if you already generated interest, go ahead and just donate that money, like give it, again, put it in charity, put it, you know, give it to some needy individuals, but do not spend that money on yourself or on your family members, because that is none but interest. Now you may ask, okay, what if I open a saving account and ask the bank to make it interest free? Okay, my answer is still you are committing a sin, because generating interest is a built-in component in the banking system in the US. Now, the fact that the bank or the banker does not add that interest to your saving account does not necessarily mean that there is no interest generated. Well, as long as there is a saving account, there is an interest. But you have chosen not to take the interest. This actually does not free you from the liability in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because again, the interest in this particular example is unavoidable. It's a self-generating, you know, money or interest, which is definitely haram. So to answer the question, close the saving account. If you already spent some money from that interest, afallahu amma salaf, maybe you did not know that, that's haram. But from now on, if you still have cash money added to your account from that interest, then you have to get rid. You need to dispose that money by just putting it in charity, give it to needy individuals, but do not use that money for yourself or for your family members. And close your saving account ASAP, as soon as possible, because this is not an option.
JazakAllah Khairan for that answer. I'll move on to another question, and this is on the topic of insurance, and I know that's probably such a broad topic. So if you could just touch on a couple of specific types of insurance that people have mentioned. Firstly, people mentioned home insurance and life insurance. If you could touch on the legality of those or what the rulings are.
Okay, there is a prevailing mainstream fatwa that we all know, okay, in which the vast majority of contemporary scholars and fiqh councils and sharia advisory boards, most of the contemporary scholars nowadays are of the belief that any kind of commercial insurance is permissible. I'm sorry, take it back. Any kind of commercial insurance is impermissible, right? So the default is that insurance is impermissible. They say that insurance involves riba, you pay less and you get more, involves like ambiguity or misrepresentation. You do not know whether or not you will be compensated for whatever premium you pay. According to the mainstream fatwa, any kind of government-based or mutual-based insurance is permissible, because according to this understanding, there is no profit motive behind it. It's just a kind of like cooperation between people. To be honest with you all, you know, maybe for the last 3 or 4 years, I was adopting the mainstream fatwa. Like, you know, since I got my degree in the first degree in Islamic economics until maybe 2015, 2016, I was with the mainstream fatwa. And then I started thinking about, you know, the authenticity of this fatwa and the difference between the government-based and the commercial insurance. Is there a real difference between the two? Is there any benevolence or cooperation or charity, if you wish, when it comes to government-based insurance? My answer actually is no. There is no such. I'll give you an example. If you have an account with the Social Security, which is the case, you know, for all of us, okay, right? from your monthly like payroll, certain amount goes to Social Security, to federal, to Medicare. That is the system in the US, right? Now, Allah forbids, upon your death or disability, okay, your legal heirs, your family members, upon your death, will be entitled for a certain amount of money. For a certain amount of money. Of course, there are a lot of guidelines here. Depends on the age of your kids and their level of education. This is not our topic. But my point here is that you pay a premium. You pay a premium to the Social Security in order for your wife and your kids upon your death to enjoy or to be entitled for a certain amount of money. In other words, Social Security is telling you, give me $100 a month. Give me $100 a month, okay? And if something wrong happened to you, do not worry. I will take care of your family members upon your death, okay? The life insurance company is telling you, give me $100 a month, and do not worry. Allah forbid if something happened to you, I will take care of your wife and your kids. So in both cases, we are not talking about unilateral agreement. We're talking about bilateral agreement, two-sided commitment. If you commit to pay a premium, whether to the Social Security or to the life insurance, you will be entitled for a certain compensation whenever a certain unfortunate incident happens. So my point here is that from a legal perspective, from even a fiqh perspective, there is no difference. There is no difference fiqh-wise between the benefits that you receive from Social Security, or if you have like union, for example, for teachers or for doctors or for whatever career you might be involved in, versus the life insurance, versus the home insurance, versus the business insurance, they are the same. All these different kinds of insurance belong to a category called bilateral agreement, two-sided commitment. If you commit to paying a certain amount as a premium, you will be entitled for a certain compensation whenever a certain event happens. Okay, let me ask you this: for some reason, you didn't have an account with Social Security, and Allah forbids, you just passed away. Do you think that the Social Security will be sympathizing with your family member and just give them money because you were like a good citizen during your lifetime? Of course no. Again, you did not have an account with them. My point here is that there is no benevolence, there is no charity, there is no cooperation. It's a business. You commit to paying a certain amount called a premium, okay? You are eligible for a certain compensation, whether it is life insurance or health insurance or home insurance or business insurance, government-based Social Security, ضمان اجتماعي back home, or نظام التقاعد, which is a kind of retirement account. All are the same. You pay, you get paid in return. You do not pay, you are out. Based on that, back in 2000, maybe 15 or 16, Allahu Alam, I just officially changed my mind, okay, and I started going with the minority of contemporary scholars who believe that life insurance or any kind of commercial insurance as a concept is a halal one, is a Sharia compliant one. It complies with the Islamic principles of cooperation and reducing the financial risk that people will be exposed to whenever a certain event happens. Now, this has nothing to do with the practice, okay, of insurance in the real life, like on the ground. But to answer the question, is insurance as a concept, including life insurance, is it haram or halal? My answer is life insurance is halal, is permissible. Life insurance is not different whatsoever from Social Security, from any kind of government-based or mutual-based. All of them actually are permissible. This has nothing to do with the fact that insurance companies might invest their money in a haram way. Now we are mixing up two things: the concept of insurance versus the practice of life insurance companies. Okay, if the only concern that you have is the way that they invest the money, then I can debate that easily by saying, okay, even when it comes to Social Security, okay, can you guarantee me that your money in Social Security are invested in a halal way? The answer is no. So there is no difference actually between life insurance and Social Security or Medicare or Medicaid. All these different kinds of insurance are just contemporary, brand new agreements that people came up with to support and to help one another and to keep the risk to the minimum. All of them actually are permissible with very, very few exceptions. Like when it comes to life insurance, for example, you have 3 different options. Okay, you can keep your minimum, your premium to the minimum, in which you will be getting what is called the insurance benefit upon your death. And if you want to increase your premium a little bit, you will be getting the insurance benefit plus cash advance, okay, which is the fact that the insurance company will be paying you back, or your family members after your death, the exact amount of premium that you paid during your lifetime. And there's a third option, which is like if you decide to increase your premium more and more, you will be getting the insurance benefit, cash advance plus interest on the cash advance. Okay, avoid option number 3 and limit yourself to option number 1 and option number 2. To recap, life insurance is permissible, home insurance is permissible, business insurance is permissible, liability insurance is permissible, full coverage insurance is permissible. All different kinds of insurance are permissible by default. You don't have to come up with a necessity or justification or need. No, this is a halal agreement by default. Go for it. If you do not have life insurance, go ahead and just have your life insurance as soon as possible. Allahu Akbar.
JazakAllah Khair. I'll move to one question that came in the chat that is kind of related. Someone is asking, what about health savings accounts? If a company opens it for every employee, part of the health insurance program.
Health saving account actually is a good example of the sophistication of the investment and insurance business in the US in particular. Health saving account, I mean, from the name of the account you can tell, is a health and saving at the same time. Okay, health saving account, for those who do not know what does it mean, it's a kind of account that is tax advantaged one. Okay, only for those who pay a high premium. Okay, if you decide to open this account, if you are eligible, it has to be done through your employer, and this is a tax advantaged money. So whatever you pay actually is your money, is tax free, and it is actually rotated from 1 year to another, like transferred from one fiscal year to another. And that money, that fund, is designated only and only for your healthcare needs. You cannot withdraw money for buying a house, for example, or making a side business. You cannot, right? So it is health saving account. What kind of concern we have here? The concern is that you have many options. It's exactly like any retirement account that you might have. Could be individual retirement account, could be a 401k, it could be a 503 for those who work for non-for-profit organizations, could be a pension plan if you work for the government or the state or the county. The concern that we practicing Muslims have is that there is no way to make sure that your investment is a pure 100% halal one. Okay, my answer is, by any chance, if you do have 5 different portfolios, okay, and you were able to figure out or to break down the components, okay, of each portfolio, and you found out that one of them is 90% halal, and the second one is 70% halal, and the rest of them are 50 or less halal, limit yourself to the as halal as possible one, which is the one that has 90%. I'm just giving, like, theoretical example. Certain options in the health saving account might include just a CD, like a certified deposit, which is a pure interest-bearing business. It's a kind of saving account. So do not go with this option. Do your best. Consult with your wealth, like your financial advisor, okay, to make sure that your investment or the portfolio that you use is as halal as possible. Okay, if there is any way to purify it, is to filterize it, is to get rid of the haram financial instruments, of course, go for it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. Be conscious to your Lord as much as you can. But in most cases, you do not have that power or authority to custom design your own portfolio. It's just the packages. You take it or you leave it. Option number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Your job is just to pick one of them and that's it. Okay, your job is ended by choosing one portfolio. If that is the case, again, do your best to choose the most Sharia compliant one. And if you reach to a conclusion that you have 90% halal in that portfolio and 10% haram, okay, you either avoid the haram if you can. If you cannot, which is the case, just dispose that certain percentage of profit that comes from that particular portfolio. This is because, number 1, you are doing your best. Number 2, you are taking advantage of the tax advantage account provided by your employer. Number 3, you are definitely in need for this account. And number 4, in the Islamic finance system, if the investment is mixed up, haram and halal, there is no way in the Islamic finance system that the haram part would prohibit the halal one, contaminate the halal one, and just make the whole investment haram. And there is no way for the halal one like to permit the haram one, right? This is called al-mal al-mukhtalat, okay? The mixed business. It has haram and halal. Whatever is halal is still halal. Whatever is haram is still haram. If you ended up having 90% halal, 10% haram, then dispose that 10% of the profit coming from that particular account, and the 90% are still halal. So go ahead and enjoy it.
JazakAllah Khairan.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me just see what all other questions we have. Okay, so I know we may have some students here, and we had a question submitted regarding taking interest-based student loans or student loans to pursue higher education. They say that almost all medical schools, dental schools, law schools require students to take one form or another of an interest-based loan. And is that permissible? And if not, what might be the best alternative?
Okay, let me go with the short answer, not with the long one. I'm going to share with you. Can you see my slides?
Yes.
Okay. اللهم صل على شفيع المذنبين وحبيب رب العالمين. Student loans. Okay. As you all know, here in the US you have subsidized loan and unsubsidized loan. In our fiqh council that I'm a part of, I'm a member in the resident fatwa committee of AMJA, the Assembly of Muslim Jurists of America. Maybe you can Google it, AMJA online, AMJA, stands for the Assembly of Muslim Jurists of America, amjaonline.org. That's Majma Fuqaha Sharia بأمريكا. We discussed this issue on a scholarly level 6-7 years ago. Long story short, our position is the following. Number 1, we need to encourage our students to go after different sponsorship and scholarship opportunities. We have a lot of, especially here in Texas, we have a lot of like scholarship and financial aid and grants opportunities. I did my own research a few years ago and I submitted that research to AMJA. I found out that in the state of Texas in particular, there are certain grants for the illegal students, believe it or not. For the illegal students. So the government is telling you, come illegally to the US, to the state of Texas, and we will take care of your education. It's really, really unfortunate to say that millions of dollars are returned unclaimed to the federal government because our students are not active enough in going after those opportunities. So number 1, before you entertain even the idea of applying for a loan, go for FAFSA, go for the different different sponsorship opportunities. It could be offered by the college, it could be offered by the state, by the university, okay, federal, local, state, grants, financial aid, scholarship, sometimes even work study, like you work for the department that you are majoring in, and you will be getting some financial benefit. If none of the above is sufficient enough, okay, then you, again, I'm now like narrating AMJA, which is the official position of AMJA. If none of the above is enough, then you can go with a subsidized loan. Subsidized loan actually is an interest-free loan. It's not 100% free. It is an interest-free loan for a certain period of time, like a zero APR, right? In which you keep borrowing, like during your undergraduate studies. It is offered based on financial need, financial eligibility. You have to prove eligibility to be able to get a subsidized loan. And upon graduation, you will be getting something called the grace period, 6 months, sometimes up to 9 months, in which you are expected to pay off the loan in full. Okay, if you successfully pay it in full, then there is no consequence, there is no interest. If you default, which is most probably the case because it is close to impossible to borrow $40,000-$50,000 in 4 years and to pay them off within 6 months of your graduation. Well, you barely can have a job even within 6 months. So you're going to end up paying interest. We said in AMJA that if those options, halal by default options, are not available or insufficient, then you can go with the subsidized loan. If the subsidized one is insufficient, okay, just 1 second. Then definitely you need to go with the next option, which is unfortunately the unsubsidized one. Unsubsidized one is an interest-bearing loan from day one. As you mentioned, Abdurrahman, in the example, the vast majority, 99% of the medical school students cannot afford paying the tuition fees, right? I mean, they cannot, as simple as that. They cannot. So in order for them to proceed, they have to take a loan. And unsubsidized loan is not based on financial eligibility. It's given to everybody. You don't have to pay it off during your study, okay? But you have to pay it off plus interest, okay, upon your graduation within a certain period of time. In AMJA, we said that if this is the only option where you can proceed with your study, whether undergrad or a graduate study, whether master's level or PhD or postdoc or MD or whatever the level of education might be, if this is the only option, there is no way. You either take an unsubsidized loan, or otherwise you have to quit your study. If that is the case, then yes, you can take unsubsidized loan, interest-bearing loan for studying or for higher education purposes. We found actually a reasonable justification for that based on the darura, or the definition of darura. Darura means necessity. Higher education is not a necessity. It is a legitimate need. However, that legitimate need cannot be fulfilled or achieved without borrowing money with interest. So based on this justification, borrowing money with interest becomes a darura. Here is the necessity, as you see here, a unique, irreplaceable matter that causes harm to people when absent. What is the unique, irreplaceable matter? Is it the higher education itself or borrowing money? No, it is borrowing money. Because again, your legitimate need, okay, I just want to make myself clear. Higher education is not a necessity. I mean, we can survive without holding degrees, but it makes no sense whatsoever that people from all over the world come to the USA, the country of education, and they invest tens of thousands of dollars, and they migrate to the US. They stay in the US for years and years to get their higher education and to go back home, okay, with a degree from the USA, right? It makes no sense that everybody is welcome to study or to pursue higher education in the US, except for Muslims living in the US, right? So we have, like as fuqaha, as people of knowledge, we have to find a solution for our kids or our students who want to pursue higher education, and that is the justification for them. If this is the only opportunity for you to pursue higher education, then you can go ahead and apply for an unsubsidized loan based on the definition of al-darura, a unique, irreplaceable matter that causes harm to people when absent. Okay, you will be harmed. You will be harmed if you do not borrow money with interest for education purposes. You can survive, but you will be harmed, and there is no other alternative, right? There is no subsidized loan. There is no grants. There is no financial aid or scholarship, especially for the graduate students, especially for the students in the school of medicine or medical school. They cannot afford it. It's extremely expensive, so they have no choice but to borrow money with interest, which is halal in this way. And Abdurrahman, I would suggest that whenever you collect maybe like a good amount of questions, maybe after 1 month more or less, maybe you can arrange for part 2, because as I said in the beginning, like this is a very deep and very detailed topic. That's my suggestion, and it's up to you.
Yes, yes. As Dr. Mar mentioned, we did receive an overwhelming number of questions. MashaAllah, it's great to see that all of us are very concerned with making sure we are meeting our Islamic obligations, so as a result of that, inshallah, I think we, out of respect for Dr. Mar's time and our time, we've already gone over. I think we will have to schedule a part 2, inshallah, sometime in the near future to cover the many questions that have not been answered.
So the 1 hour is the principal, and the 6 minutes are interest, right? On top of the 1 hour, right?
So give me 1 second. Okay. Yes. So with that, inshallah, I'm going to just share one thing real quick. So inshallah, we'll try to schedule a part 2 for this to cover the rest of the questions. To quickly.
JazakAllah Khair, Abdurrahman, for the rest of the brothers and sisters in your masjid, for giving me the opportunity. We would love to like build a long-term partnership with your masjid. And please convey my salam and my respect and regards to all the brothers and sisters in your community. JazakAllah Khairan.
Inshallah. So really quickly, I just want to share something about our upcoming programs here. So October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and inshallah, the masjid will have programs during this month focused on that. So it will be a 2-part series. Part 1 will be about conflicts at home and constructive ways to resolve those conflicts, and part 2 will be regarding prophetic marriage roles and the understanding of Islamic text as related to that. We have some very knowledgeable guest speakers in mind for those topics, so make sure you keep on the lookout on our social medias and our email listserv for further information and links about these events to come, inshallah. With that, I want to once again thank Dr. Maran, first of all, for taking the time to speak to us today on such a important topic, and I also want to thank all of you for joining us this evening. I'll close with dua and Surah Al-Asr. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. جزاك الله خير everyone. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.